Gabrielle Anderson. Today we are going to talk about PANDAS and PANS and what that could look like in your therapy room. So PANS pretty much covers any infection. PANDAS has its own special name. PANDAS refers to strep only. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about what these mean and why they have anything to do with mental health. So if we look at PANDAS, PANDAS is a little bit more well known than PANS. PANDAS is when someone is exposed to strep, and instead of getting a sore throat and strep throat in the throat, or sometimes strep can attack the heart with rheumatic fever, or it can attack the joints. But in this case, this would be when the antibodies actually attack the brain and the basal ganglia becomes inflamed, otherwise known as encephalitis, which just means when the brain is inflamed, and that creates a host of mental health symptoms. So sometimes it looks like really bad OCD or anxiety or fear. Sometimes it looks really, really scattered, like depression, or mixed with a little bit of anxiety, mixed with a little bit of what we would think of as like ADHD symptoms. It really, I think the genetic coding within a person has a lot to do with how strep is going to look. PANS could be, it could be chlamydia pneumoniae, it could be Lyme disease from ticks. There are a host of infections that can be carried by ticks. Babesia is one. Bartonella is another. Mycoplasma is another. There are different infections that ticks can carry that can create the same kinds of mental health problems in people, and it can be kind of scary. You can have an autoimmune response to the flu. A member of the family gets the flu, or your child gets the flu, and then all of a sudden the anxiety comes, or the scatteredness comes, the paranoia comes, and parents will say, my child was very, very different. My child was very, very stable. My child had cognitive, concrete thoughts that made sense, and now all of a sudden they don't. Anytime you have an appointment with somebody and they say, my child is drastically different, in February things changed. After spring break, I don't know what happened, but my child just began to go downhill like this. Anytime you hear a sudden onset like that, I want you to start thinking about infection. Start thinking about PANDAS. Sometimes some of these infections are comorbid, where let's say somebody might have Lyme disease and they just don't know they do. Lyme disease can create a host of autoimmune responses. It begins to just turn on a lot of autoimmune diseases in the body, so it makes somebody more susceptible to having PANDAS, for instance. Instead of like their neighbor, when they're exposed to strep, they get strep throat. But if you have other reasons to have some autoimmune problems, maybe it's just in your genetic coding, maybe it's in your genetic coding and your immune system is a little bit low, or maybe you do have another underlying illness that you just don't know you have that's creating your body's inability to fight something at the autoimmune level. I find some sort of infection in people in my intakes at least twice a month. Guys, I'm not seeing any different kind of people than you are. Virginia is an endemic area for Lyme disease. That means a lot of people have it and a lot of people don't know it. And so I feel like if we can educate ourselves, learning what some of the symptoms are, we can save a lot of our kiddos from having to go into the psychiatric unit. We can save a lot of our kiddos from being diagnosed incorrectly as bipolar, schizophrenia, major depression, generalized anxiety, obsessive compulsive disorder, ADHD, all of those diagnoses cannot be enough. All of those diagnoses could possibly be an infection that is in the body that needs to be helped by a physician. I would really like to post more videos about this and go in depth into some of the details of what, for instance, babesia might look like, so that you can really look for that in your intakes, what Bartonella could look like, because quite frankly, guys, our kids and our adults are just going to get more sick as the infection builds in their body. One of my specialty areas here in my center is chronic illness, and I see a lot of people with PANDAS, I see a lot of people with PANS, and I educate a lot of people, and I send them to physicians who can properly diagnose. So I encourage you, if you have more questions, reach out to me directly. My website is www.familytherapynova.com. On that website you can find a lot of resources. You can hear me explain some of what I'm talking about. I blog about some of what I'm discussing here today, but you can also reach me directly from my website. I hope this made you a bit curious in terms of learning about infection and learning what encephalitis really can look like in your clients.